Welcome to the 36th episode of Bali News This Week. I'm your host, Mr. Steve, and even though there wasn't a lot of news in Bali this week, I've managed to find 4 stories that might be of interest. We've got a man who murdered a customer at his cafe. We've got a trans woman who beat up a man in a nightclub. We've got a teacher who mistakenly sent a porn video to his students. And I've got an update on Mr. Marcus Beam, the man who was arrested in Bali some couple of months ago.
Mr. Steve!
Mr. Steve!
So let's begin with a very juicy story coming out of Sanur, where police have charged a Sanur cafe owner with murder following a bloody incident. The owner of a cafe in Sanur, where a bloody altercation took place on Sunday, has been charged with murder after the man he assaulted for attacking another person died from his head injury. Police say that the incident occurred in the early hours of Sunday. Consistent with previous reports from local media outlets, it was preceded by the victim, identified by his alias in this case, but I've got his real name coming up because I've done a bit more research, who headed into the cafe while intoxicated and then asked an employee, in this case identified by her initials FM, to sleep with him. They retreated to a room where Monjong, I'll give you his real name in a minute, asked FM for her fees, which she said was US $10, 150,000 rupiah. However, Monjong took out his knife and said he didn't want to pay. FM refused, of course, seeking help from a woman identified as Ojam, who was nearby at the time. So I've done a bit more digging and found out that the cafe is called Jalita Cafe in the West Complex in Sanur. And according to the information from police, the incident occurred after a 51-year-old male customer, Gusti Made Swajana, was having an argument with one of the waitresses working in the cafe. Now we know what the argument was about. He pointed a knife towards the waitress and she screamed for help. One of the other staff members, Pratama Putra, ran over to help, but unfortunately was stabbed in the stomach by Swajana. Hearing the commotion, the 34-year-old cafe owner, Imam Arifin, rushed to help his staff and swung a sickle to Swajana's head. Both Putra and Swajana were rushed to hospital. However, Swajana died from his injuries. Now, this is the unusual bit. The cafe owner, probably excessive force using a sickle, could face up to 15 years in prison. Now, the next story really relates to the fact of this year, 2020, being COVID year, and how a lot of students are being schooled at home and via the internet with their teachers. In this case, the elementary teacher, which is just young kids, accidentally sends out an adult video to his students. A teacher from an elementary school in Bangli district, Bali, accidentally sent an adult video through a WhatsApp group to his students during a virtual class. After receiving the video, students from the 3rd grade class at Kintamani Elementary School reported the video to their parents. It wasn't intentional, of course. The teacher pushed the wrong button. He tried to delete the video, but he didn't know how to do it. The teacher has apologised for the incident and the parents have agreed to not press charges or pursue a lawsuit. Although I'm pretty sure he'll get pretty well disciplined by the school. And I think he's quite lucky, this young chap, this elementary school teacher, because as you know, the laws against pornography are pretty strict in Indonesia. Anyway, just a short little story about that one. The final story that I picked up this week in Bali involves a trans woman who's been arrested for assault at a Bali bar in Legian. A trans woman has been arrested after an assault that took place at a bar, now it's in Kuta, which it is in Kuta actually. After 2 days of searching, Kuta police arrested a trans woman who allegedly beat up a man in a bar. Now, do they know whether this is Legian or Kuta? They keep changing it. 29-year-old suspect Sarul, also known as Aura, from Makassar, South Sulawesi, was arrested after a 20-year-old Anki Gusperindo filed a police report alleging he was beaten up inside Paddy's bar. It's actually called Paddy's Pub, on Thursday, October the 1st. So it's quite a while ago, but it's only just come out. According to the investigation, Anki, who is currently living in Kerobokan, was drinking beer with his friends at Paddy's Pub that night. He was approached by the suspect and punched in the face multiple times, allegedly causing minor injuries to his eye and lip. After a few days of searching, we've arrested the perpetrator at her place in the Kuta area. This is a police spokesperson. Officers found her Sunday afternoon, October the 11th. The perpetrator admitted what he had done to the victim. He said he was upset after the victim accused him, we're getting all the pronouns mixed up here, of stealing beers from a cafe on another day. So the perpetrator will be charged for violating Article number 351 from the Book of Criminal Laws. Here's a picture of Sanur, also known as Aura, in her customary orange jumpsuit after being arrested. Finally today, do you remember this chap? For those of you new to the channel, this is Marcus Beam, and 2 months ago he was arrested in Bali as a fugitive from America. He'd run away from America based on the fact that he was being charged for fraud, securities fraud in Chicago and Illinois. Well, we've not heard much about Marcus since then, other than I know he was supposed to be extradited back to the States, and the last thing I saw was about a month or so ago when the Indonesians were trying to negotiate for a swap with 2 fugitives in America that were wanted in Indonesia for some crimes. Now, I haven't heard whether he's back in the States or not, or whether he's still in prison in Bali or what, but looks like the SEC in America has obtained a final judgment against Marcus Beam. And you can see here it was back on the 28th of September. The judgment permanently enjoins Beam from violating the anti-fraud provisions. And in addition to all these provisions, the court has ordered Marcus Beam to pay disgorgement and prejudgment interest of $219,921 US and a civil penalty of $207,000 US. No idea if he's got that sort of money. I doubt it very much. Don't think you get paid that much for uploading porn videos to Pornhub and sites like that. So no idea what's going to go on there. So I was going to keep digging. I want to say thanks to one of my subscribers in America for finding this for me and sending it through the details. Much appreciated. Anyway, that's your Bali news update for October the 19th. I hope you all have a good week, and just like to welcome the 25 new subscribers from last week. Welcome to the channel, and I hope to get a new video out for you, hopefully some news this week, and I'll get a new one out for you next week. This is Mr. Steve saying have a great week.